on this afternoon.
It's time, man.
Yeah, after this.
Yeah. Good morning. Let's call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting for our budget meeting. First one. It is Monday at 9 o'clock and we're here to see y'all. And we will turn the meeting over to Pam.
Okay. So what you have before you is our first draft of the general fund budget and enterprises. Those are towards the back. We looked at, we cut anywhere we could reasonably cut. We looked at equipment, repairs, all of the things that we knew were covered under FEMA public assistance that were going back new. We reduced it anywhere we could on that side. There is a raise factored in for the employees at 3%. See if there's any other big ones that jump out. Remember that the agreement early in the year was to move fire and ESU back into the general fund instead of doing a special assessment, because there was really no good way to do a special assessment at this point, so you've got that hit there. Clearly, the police department is the bulk of the budget, and so I don't know, Mayor, if you want to go through each one, and then we'll talk about each one as we go through it, or how you want to approach it.
Well, I think on this budget, that we probably should go through maybe a little more detail for everybody's sake.
Okay?
But not, I mean, some of them are self-explanatory, and if you don't get any questions, I'd sort of move on.
Okay, all right, let's do that then. So revenue, our proposed revenue is 2.171645, which is
Keep
an
up with-
increase.
Keep up with where we are.
Yes.
I
Oh,
mean,
page
you're
one
on,
under revenue,
you're
page
on
one.
page, no, nothing's numbered, so where are you?
It's the revenue for.
Revenue, okay.
So there's actually, yeah, I'm gonna let Adrian explain the ad valorem.
Well, the ad valorem is what it takes to fund everything as in the budget. That's the amount we need to generate after everything else is calculated. But if you look at local option gas tax, you see there's $1 there. And that's because the state estimate's not out yet. And it doesn't matter because it gets transferred directly to the paving and maintenance fund. So it doesn't affect the overall budget. So I just put $1 in there so it has a placeholder until those estimates come out. Franchise fees, we guessed, again, because we're down on utility users. Utility taxes, same thing, down on utility users. This budget's based on 1,500 to 1,600 customers. We are currently just under 11. So we did some projecting and went 1,500 was our hope. Professional occupational licenses is down because the businesses aren't here. Building permits we increased significantly because they're going to increase. Boat launch fees held the same. Mobile homes I cut in half. Beverage tax I cut in half because of the lack of restaurants and bars. The half-cent sales tax you'll see is the same as last year, and that's because, again, the estimates aren't out from the state. They say end of June, mid-July. I refresh that page 15 times a day. None of the estimates have been released. The population estimate has. It's up for us, so that's good because that's going to help our percentage, but it doesn't have the actual estimates yet.
So Adrian, where do we plug in the ad valorem relief from Triumph?
It's right here, Triumph Gulf Coast under licenses and permits at 523,580.
Right there, okay.
Yep.
So that's the money that they gave us to offset our ad valorem costs.
Adrian, if you would, on water utility tax, that's a dedicated, I'm sorry, not water,
Some of those are dedicated.
yeah, how do we know which are dedicated funds? Or have we done away with that and we're all in pool cash?
No, there's dedicated funds, they're not labeled on here specifically, but I can tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
Local option gas taxes, paving and maintenance. All three utility taxes are utility tax fund. That's electric, water, and natural gas. So those are your transfers out later on, and then your slip rentals for the canal is the canal fund. And I think I hit them all. Let me look. Oh, and then the boat ramp is the boat ramp maintenance fund. So there are 4 different funds we transfer out, and later on in the budget, you'll see a transfer out page, and they just match the revenues.
If you flip these on the next page, yeah. I did have a question, and I don't know, Mayor, you may know the answer. This past year, our budget was based on a contribution from the CDC. And I'm talking about this current fiscal year. We didn't get that. It's about 50,000 somewhere.
47.
47,000. They said, well, we lost revenue, we're not gonna pay it. The city still had to pay our bills and our commitment, so I just wanna raise that as a concern that I have, that was a commitment made to the city prior to the storm. And I understand the storm changed a lot for a lot of people, but the city still has to meet its debt obligations and financial commitments.
What was it for?
It was for
Dredge maintenance and beach
dredging,
raking.
maintenance, and beach raking, which we have done a ton of since the storm. Maybe not because tourism was here, but we've done. And I don't know,
No, I don't know, I mean,
I just
I
felt
don't-
like they do have a reserve, I know they have a healthy reserve, and I just feel
Have
like.
we asked them?
Yeah, we asked them right after the storm, and we were told, we're not gonna get it. So I just wanna raise that, that's about $50,000 that we need, and that was a commitment to the city, and I just felt like that should be,
And I have eliminated that from next year's budget because I'm assuming it's not happening. So it's not
in the
included.
budget for this upcoming
you
year.
mean their traditional canal,
Yeah.
I bet it is coming.
How much is the
It
reserve?
didn't come this year, so I assume it wasn't coming next year either.
We haven't been
I
getting
can reach out to
any,
Kimberly.
Well, sure, we should.
but we didn't get it this year, we were told no, so we.
Well, but that 50,000 was an additional,
No,
No.
no, that's the
No.
actual,
that,
Line
so
item.
that's part of the dredging, beach
Yeah.
raking, that's not an additional.
No.
no, the 30,000 they dedicate to dredging and the 17 they dedicate to beach
Okay.
raking.
Yeah, we need
Yeah,
that,
they pulled that.
yeah, we need that.
Well, a question on it, does just the CDC get the money from Mexico Beach? Or is it all tied in from the Bay County TDC too?
It comes, no, Mexico Beach has its own bed tax,
Um,
and that money's collected, and that all goes to, Bay County, TDC.
And then it
And
comes back
then
to us.
it comes back, and
So-
they have a healthy reserve because they budget based on projections. So when they go over, that money, it's my understanding, is all placed in reserve, and for the past 5 years plus, they've gone over every year. I mean, we've been growing leaps and bounds in bed tax revenue before the storm.
And, Bay County TDC probably has not lost very much this year from just Piedmont City Beach.
Don't confuse them and us.
I don't think the money's commingled. I think our bed tax is still separate, but still there's, I think the taxpayers of Mexico Beach are owed that 47,000 commitment that was made, by the TDC.
Yeah, I'm just saying, no matter how well Panama City Beach does, it doesn't reflect financially.
If we get
And-
nothing,
and I mean, that money is totally separate.
separate, okay, that's what I was trying to.
That's all.
Okay, so I'll,
Yeah, we
make a
need to reach
request.
out, I'm surprised we hadn't reached out to them.
Well, we've just been told no every time we've
I think
asked,
I did, I
so.
just don't remember for
It
sure.
was right after the storm and we were told no, but we will definitely reach out on that. So any questions on the revenue side?
There is another page of revenue.
Yeah, there's 2 pages.
To be page 2.
Yep. If there's nothing on page 1, I can move to page 2.
What'd you do with state revenue sharing? I see you just, you cut it in half? About how, I guess I'm a little confused, I'm trying to read, you got a difference of 36,000.
I didn't put a number in there because that projection wasn't out. It should be 36,435. I just missed it. They don't have that number released yet. That's why. Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause that's a big number.
Yeah, just assume it's the same until they release it. So we'll assume
Will
30.
they release the DR4 yet?
Yes, but the state revenue sharing, no. None of the state projections are out. But put 36,435 in there,
It's gonna help slightly.
slightly.
So I mean,
So we add that to our.
should add that.
Two
Everything
revenues,
else,
yeah, that'll reduce the millage slightly.
I bet it'll be a little bit higher than that, but I can't say positively for sure.
We do have several,
Alright,
Get on down.
we have several, grants that we've applied for. Some of those are starting to come in, and that will be part of revenue. The fire department was just awarded 34,000, 36,750 from Firehouse Subs.
Oh, that's
Grant we
good.
applied for with Firehouse Subs, so, good work on behalf of the fire department. So that's for equipment.
Yeah, that was specifically for new extrication equipment. And some extrication equipment that we've never had before. And normally it takes 3 applications to get it, but along with MES, who are the suppliers of the equipment, we put in a fairly lengthy and application, and we got it first time round. So we're fortunate that way, and it'll mean now that we will be able to cut metals in modern vehicles that our old equipment was unable to cut should we need to, and bring us up to modern standards, which at no cost to the city, which is a good thing.
So we'll be factoring in those grants as they come in.
I still have one more out there, which I'm hoping to hear in the next couple of
Yeah,
next
which is
couple of
the
days.
safer?
No, the safer grant is a
The
different one
Safer-
altogether. If the safer one comes out,
That's
you know,
huge.
that's huge, but there's another one through Wyland Fire, which would replace all the PPE, which is the personal protective equipment that we wear. Again, that's normally a 50-50, but in this particular case, it's been it's a 100% grant from Wyland Fire. So if we get that, that would be another 18,000 plus, which would enable us to have all new PPE for those whose PPE got badly damaged during the flood.
And we can get into more details when we get to the fire.
Adrian, why is there no impact fees?
Because remember that in this budget, it's only impact fees that are being spent. This is a transfer in, and they have a dedicated account, so they don't get budgeted for. This is if we are spending impact fees, they come into the budget and then go out. So there's no budgeted impact fees because we don't plan to spend any.
Now, we have a healthy impact fund for water
Sewer.
and sewer.
Yeah,
So we may
in the sewer budget.
have to tap into
So
those,
that's
but
why, where are they listed? Where then are the accounts? Are they in here?
No, the impact fee accounts are not in here. We don't budget impact fee accounts, they're cash
it's just,
accounts.
they just,
I know, but how we know where our money is? Trying to understand our money. I don't know, where's our
accounting.
where's our account sheet that has our,
You want the balances,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
We'll add that to the
Yeah,
enterprise
make that-
fund account.
Okay,
I'll put a sheet.
and also, if you would, if you don't do anything but on dedicated accounts, just make some, if it's an asterisk or
Star 'em.
something, do something that, remember, we don't all look at this every day. And the reason that's important, dedicated funds, I mean, they can be undedicated, but they're dedicated for specific use, so they're not exactly ready cash in terms of, you know, money's available, so. All right, so tell me again on impact fees, where,
We just
you don't
have,
put them in here, but you don't project them because we aren't gonna spend them. Is that what I heard you say?
If we're gonna buy something with impact fees, we've transferred into the budget. We're not buying anything within fact fees, so there's nothing in
It
it.
becomes a budget amendment.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because we have nothing planned. Now, we can add whatever we want, but there's nothing planned, so there's
We
nothing.
need, then we definitely need those
Okay.
accounts. All right, go ahead, I'm sorry.
All right, any other questions on revenue?
Well, yeah, ad valorem taxes, line one, $2.2 million. Is that based off of, we do have a DR4,
Mhm.
so we know what our taxable value is. How did, when you say proposed, does that account for what the Triumph money's making up?
No, it's a separate line item, Triumph.
I see that, but you only have $48,000 difference in last year and this year.
Yeah, it's an increase in ad valorem of 48,000, plus the Triumph money's further down to 523, so it's actually an increase of 580, or 560.
So keep in mind that proposed ad valorem tax, that's what we need to cover our budget.
Cost.
That's what we need to cover the costs that we have factored in there. That's not a number we've been given by anyone. That's what we need. That's kind of the rollback rate. That's what we need to.
Okay, that's not the income from ad valorem, from a millage rate.
The
Based
top
on-
line item?
Right.
It
Absolutely
is, but it's what we're projecting based on the current budget. We don't have numbers. Do we have numbers yet?
Yeah.
And it's, what was the number that we're gonna collect
For,
from the county?
for,
What was the number for ad valorem? What was their projection?
of our taxable value?
Yeah.
317 million.
That's our taxable value this year, that you just got, 317?
Compared to
Almost
what you
317.
did last year.
419.
Yeah, I thought it said it wasn't going down much.
100 million.
Well, that's a lot. And that's the only 523 is the difference in the taxable that Triumph's making up?
Yeah, that's all
Mhm.
they did.
That's all it is? Okay. Page 2 of revenue.
These should all be good. The lighting contract came out at the end of June, so that is correct at 10,751. MST fire protection. We've talked about this a lot in the past year, and that was trying to get the county to give us the money they collect in unincorporated Bay County that we cover. Last year when they talked about it, it was 60-some thousand. This year, when they got down to it, it's 21,649, and they're drafting an agreement, and that's what we will budget. It's an increase of $6,649. It's not as much as I thought, but that is the money they collect in unincorporated Bay County, in our service area. Court fines we held flat, interest we held flat, rental from the CDC.
That was one I wanted to.
Go ahead. I don't know.
I mean, before I left, week before last, Kimberly had approached me wanting us to terminate their lease. And then, so that they could get rental income from FEMA. I'm not really sure how all that works. I talked to Nick about it. So I don't know where they're going with it. I haven't had a chance to get back with Kimberly, to give her an answer after I spoke with Nick. But, essentially, I don't know if the CDC is gonna come back and ask us to reduce their rent, because there's, a building's not there, even though they're still using the land, but clearly, if they're gonna use the land, they're a private entity, we need to charge them rent on that land. So, I'm just throwing that out to say they may come and wanna change that number. So we've got 3,000 budgeted now, depending on what they're wanting to do with that.
And everything else on the page is flat.
Question about docking fees.
Yeah, that was,
We're not charging anybody, but we're not letting anybody dock, right?
well, the reason, we're not letting anybody dock on the city side right now is because we've got pilings that are down, we've got stuff that's going on there that could damage their boat. I talked to Dina week before last, and we're gonna go down there and take a look to see if we feel comfortable letting, I think there are only 3 or 4 tops, charter fishermen who
Well,
wanna
it might
fish
be
over
more
there.
now with, Fort St. Joe not being able to do as much as they can do.
But
And we can make money.
we'll do what we can, but keep in mind, we're gonna be starting that canal project soon. So we've explained to the fishermen, you're gonna have to be jockeying around, we're gonna have to be moving you around during the repairs and the construction going on. We've got the Salt Creek Bridge construction happening, we're gonna have the canal work, underway. We've got the MX1 lift station, we've got a lot going on the canal, but we'll do what we can when we can, and we're gonna have to take a look at it and see if there's a way we can let them at least get in.
And we can make money again.
We can, the harbor master, his contract is based on, dockage, slip rentals. We don't have any income
We don't
coming,
make much.
but he's wanting money, so we're paying him $830-something a month, even though we don't have slip rental. But we are gonna look at that and see if we can get anybody in there, we're just, it's kinda hard to say, okay, we can let 2 of you, but we can't let all of you, We don't wanna be in a position where we've gotta pick and choose who we're gonna let get in there. That might be something we'll let you guys pick and choose.
Or maybe, we got these slips, first come, first served.
Probably everybody throw their name in the pot and we just draw their names out of it. I mean, you're right. Gotta be one way or the other.
Okay.
Adrian, on dredge maintenance, we just took that out? I guess I'm,
From the CDC, yeah.
no, yeah, CDC dredge maintenance, walkover repair, beach rate, we took it out, we didn't put anything in there because it.
'Cause I don't
just a
expect-
verbal, that no, they aren't gonna
Yeah.
participate, that's what.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to send them with something more official than
Yeah, I will prepare something
something,
for your signature.
okay.
Donations, we know that the donations are gonna be very different than $1,000, but that's going towards our match, which we don't have budgeted in here, cause that could be 3 years down the road.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions on revenue? Anything else?
Page 3.
Next one is the elected officials, pretty straightforward. I think the only change is probably taxes or workman's comp, looks like it's workman's comp.
And, travel and education,
Yeah.
or just travel. A recurring theme you're gonna see throughout the entire budget process is we really pull back the travel from all the departments. We never hit it anyway, so we cut them back. So this one's cut back from 2,000 to 500.
What do you pay workers' comp on, too?
Elected, all the 5 of you.
Good workers' comp.
Keep it paper cut.
I think it's required, isn't it?
It probably is.
Simply because it's money paid in, salaries, cause you.
It's the percentage salaries with the exposure.
I just thought that'd be exempt.
Yeah, the exposure of risk and the percentage salary. You're the lowest percentage, Alex.
Yeah, no joke, $204 for the year, okay.
We actually, our workman's comp rate improved this year.
It did, but I haven't got the official, that's why I'm not positive.
We think it's gonna improve, which is good news. So you know, the travel and education for elected officials, you've been through the emo training, Jerry has not, and I think that's so important. But we've got 500 and 500, so.
You haven't either, have you?
Hmm.
You gotta go through that too, ethics.
Well, I've been through total, I'm up for a whole weekend.
Well, I know, but
I
that's
had to
actually
do it.
history.
I know, I had to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the initial and then there's the advanced, and definitely, I think Jerry needs the
Every
initial.
2 years you gotta go. You know that. Jerry's gotta get his eyes fixed.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
City administrator, keep in mind that this is not the salary is split over, multiple funds, so this is just a
Why
portion
do we
of
do
it.
that? Just to confuse everybody or what?
It's just how it should be done, it's proper accounting where it's, you're supporting that particular enterprise.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of projecting because we don't know who we're gonna get. So we did the midpoint of the advertised range, and we did family coverage and health insurance because you don't know the coverage level, so I just had to guess.
Right.
How many employees we do that split, all that projecting with on?
It's just
1,
the
2,
admin
3, 4,
overhead.
5, 6.
Do we have a page in here where it shows their total?
No, but I can get you. I can make one.
I think we should have a page where it shows the total,
Total what?
total salary.
Okay. Of everybody.
Well,
The,
of
the
the one we're
ones that are
splitting
split,
up.
the six
Just
that
the
were
one,
split.
yeah, the 6 that were,
What's the total salary of each person? Not split up.
The six that
Okay.
are split.
just the 6.
And who sits down and does that? Who says this is 10%, 8%, 25%? You do that.
Yeah, I think initially when it was done a few years ago.
It's been the same percent since we first did it.
Yeah, they actually looked at the amount of time spent and came up with a best guess years ago. And I think it seems to be working well.
I mean, we could have collected when we went to the ethics class for travel and food. I just threw that in. I didn't, tell you the truth, I didn't know we could collect anything.
Well, you'll see here, we cut the travel down too.
Well, I know, that's probably right.
Yeah.
Okay?
City clerk, same thing, pretty much across the board. Again, a salary that's split over multiple funds.
And the travel was cut. And I projected that, it'd be single coverage for health insurance. I had no idea who we were getting at that time either, and I got it right.
Again, I think Jenny's gonna need training and education since she doesn't have any government experience, and we've cut the budget, travel to 500. But when we talked about this, we didn't know who we were gonna get, as Adrian said, so just something for you guys to think about.
Well, I think before the budget is completed, that we ought to look at that by the end of the year and have an idea, and we don't, just to avoid putting something in there, what kind of education or training slash, and we could, I don't have a clue what you would do now, but if we just, we don't need to just ignore that it's gonna really happen and not budget for it. All right? And my point of that comment is, you need to look as we move along in this process to what you might need to do, where you might need to go, what type of, you know, I trust that you will, can research that and figure out what you think you need. Okay?
No change in, legal over last year. Nick does give us, invoices that are split between Hurricane Michael expense that we submit to FEMA for reimbursement and the non-Michael expenditures.
Is that that 44,320 for 18, is that an actual number?
No,
Well, then what is the actual number?
We don't have an actual for 17, 18, or.
What are the actual numbers?
that actual number would be 52,954.
That was in 18.
Mm-hmm.
What was 19?
19 I don't
I
have.
know, but what are we now?
I don't have it with me, I couldn't guess off the top of my head.
We'll get an answer on that. 17 adopted. Do you know what 17 adopted was?
I have it in front of me.
I have to ask, what,
Yeah, I just noticed that we have adopted on years 17.
oh, yeah.
18, we should have actions there. We should only have adopted on 19,
Okay.
but we could show year-to-date where we're running. But yeah, we
Well, I don't know, I just
need, we
noticed
need
that too.
actual for 17 and 18. Makes it a lot easier when you're,
Yeah, when you know
Guessing.
what you really spent, or what you saved.
yeah. I know there, he had one version that had that there. I don't know if he's just pulled a different version. Planning and zoning is the next page. Pretty much left out the same. Their communications, rents and leases, that's all, a portion of the total. It's split. Those are things that are split across all the different categories. Copy machines, phone service, all of that. The other current charges, I think that's a lot of that is the notifications for variances and such, the newspaper ads. We definitely need to leave that in there, cause we're doing a lot of those. This 10,000 may not be enough.
How about signs? How many signs we got?
Oh gosh, we put up, you know, every month, we're putting up several, but we have those, so we're good on the signs. Wanna move on to general government?
Yep.
Okay. So this is everyone who isn't, all employees not accounted for in the other categories that we'll get to. We have lost, some key, salary hits, public works director, which we've, as you well know, we split, between Thomas and Tommy, so we do have some salary savings. So we've gone down, I don't know, about 25 grand.
How many people are we down?
1, 2 right now,
Just two?
just 2, well, 3, sorry, 3. And we're not replacing, we haven't replaced anyone since the storm, we've just been absorbing that work and moving people around. And I think we're, right now, that's working well. We may have to look at that later, as we get closer to.
Where are we short? What areas are
I
departments?
don't think we're really short anywhere.
Well, and I know on utility side, when Mary left, I moved, or Kevin left, and we moved somebody over. And then Mary left, they moved me up and moved somebody over. And when Philip left, I went to half of his job. So technically, utilities would be considered one short technically, but
We,
we've moved people around.
yeah,
so.
we moved, cause sanitation, of course,
Mhm.
their workload is decreased drastically, so we moved 2 guys over from sanitation.
One was a temporary, and
Um,
right now I got total of 19 people for all the public works, and it's technically budgeted. Last year was budgeted for 21.
Okay.
So, and you take Mary Leonard out, and you take Philip Hall out. There's your 2 people. It gives you 19. So,
We lost, Kevin.
but we hired a temp worker to fill that slot. So we had 21 plus a temp.
Yeah, I think the tip was already on board, but we
That was
made
when
him
Jermaine
from
became
san-
permanent.
He was on,
It
temporary
was temporary on
sanitation.
sanitation, and he became permanent. I gave us 21, and Mary and Philip left. They gave us 19.
And
That's where we're
the 2 guys we moved over, to water and sewer, they're working out well. sanitation, so they're working on their certification right now. But I feel comfortable, with the staff we have currently.
So we are budgeting in additional, 4 additional people, even though they're not really additional, we're just not filling those slots.
How many people is the employee we do have on the general government with salaries? I mean,
What's the total, do you know those numbers off the top of your head?
General government, who's in there? Lindsay, Sherry, Mary, Public Works Director. Was Sharon, Sharon's gone. That's it.
Well, when we
we
give
get a
you
list
that
of that.
breakdown,
I wanna look at it.
yeah, let's give when we do the breakdown on how
Yeah.
those salaries are,
I'm gonna list every department, every employee, and what percent of their salaries paid.
And you said that was how many, 6 you thought?
About 6, yeah. It's just City Hall
Okay.
and Public Works Director.
That's fine.
and just so you'll know, there are a couple people we adjusted their salaries because we moved them into different jobs, so that's reflected here. Lindsay, she's picked up a ton of responsibility since Sharon left. The guys who moved over from sanitation to utilities, there was a salary change there. So, what you see in here is a few salary changes associated with movement to different jobs, and then the 3% cost of living adjustment increase.
Adrian, why is 17, I just noticed, why are all these numbers adopted instead of actual?
Because when my hard drive fried, the budget I had done, I had to scramble and do a new one, and I didn't put the actuals in.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, well, we had that in there at one
And we
time.
had the actuals in there. I just noticed it now myself, because I thought they were in there, because I was using the same spreadsheet always.
Okay.
So we'll get that. We'll get that.
Yeah, I just pulled reports and punched them in.
Oh, so you can.
I can do it, yeah, I've got paper copies, I just,
Adrian, you wanna talk through the health insurance and what we budgeted there, it's like 10% increase?
yeah, I was told by the insurance to budget, 10% increase on health insurance. We don't have an official increase yet. The retirement increase is officially done. It was minimal, like 0.8% or something. But the reason for the decrease here is Sharon's position, wasn't Phil?
And then the portion of public
And a
works.
portion of Philip's salary. Correct.
Well, every year, at least, and I shouldn't say that every year, but many years, we always talk about health insurance.
Yeah, we always talking about.
And, I mean, it's sort of justified in our city our size, what we pay. Is everybody aware of the health insurance plan that we have? I doubt Jerry or Bobby, or is everybody, I mean, what we offer and how we offer it and,
I was one time, I'm sure it's changed since that time.
just give us a quick overview of what we offer, what we pay for.
We have a $1,500 deductible, considered a Cadillac plan, but it's been the plan that we've had forever. The city pays 75% of the premium, no matter your level of dependent, or if you have dependents or not, which is unheard of. You won't find that anywhere else. Most places are 100% for the employee, and the employee's responsible for their dependents, but we pay 75% of dependents as well. How much more detail do you want?
No, I mean, that's,
1,500 deductible.
Yeah. They
It's a
have
pretty good plan.
dental,
That's separate.
that's separate, but they have dental and then health
And vision.
and vision.
But the employee pays 100% of dental, 100% of vision. We don't pay anything towards those. We just offer it.
well, you know, for several years, I was told, I never checked myself, but I think someone did several years ago about our salary scale. And that was one of that we offered better benefits, quote, / offset what we pay.
We have,
I don't know if, I have no idea, I haven't seen any kind of wage.
I have a benefits,
Survey.
I have a benefits schedule for pretty much everybody in the county. We are the worst in health insurance for an employee only, but we are the best if you have any dependents of anyone around. Parker is the best all the way across, their wages are super low too. But they're 100% employee covered, and we punched some numbers about 3 months ago of looking at if we went to 100% for the employee and eliminated dependent coverage, what that would save us. And I don't remember, what did it come to? It was small, where we almost said it wasn't worth it, to even bring it up, because we really thought that, I really thought it was gonna be significant, and it wasn't.
And it was not?
No.
It was about 21,000 or something, and when you look at that, and the burden you were gonna be putting on your employees, because now they're going to pick it up 100%, we just didn't think that it made sense.
Well, from years past, it has been sort of I guess you'd say people think, well, if you didn't do this, the city would save a significant amount of money. But if y'all looked at that and the actual savings, then we don't need, I'm not suggesting that we get into bidding, and I'm not even, oh Lord, I've been through that so many times.
If you were married with children, this is the best place in the world to work for health insurance. You're not gonna find anything that compares. We've got employees that have family coverage and just can't believe what we pay, so.
Okay, then let's move on, let's go.
Yeah.
But
All
one
right,
thing
man.
that you might wanna look at is working towards, the employee having more of a cost share by maybe reducing from 75% that the city pays to 74 or 70%, start, working down from that, because for an employer to be picking up the tab for 75% of health insurance, no one does that anymore. So that's a good way to start saving costs, and if you do it a little bit at a time, you're not putting that burden on the employee all at once, but something that I would recommend that you look at.
Well, there might be a time,
Not sure this is the time, but.
no. But I would also like to see what we're up against, what people around us do in that particular area. And I think there's probably a lot of varied, probably from A to Z of how everybody does it, but,
Well, I will see if I had it on my hard drive or if it's on a survey, and if I have it,
yeah,
I'll get it to
yeah,
you, but it's 50-50, it might be going, but I
I got you, okay. All right, so we're still in general government.
can, software involved.
So we have, one thing that was apparent to me, having come from a background in software development, after the storm, we do a lot of stuff manually. You have to stand on one foot, hold your tongue right in order to get things to work with our software, because we've never upgraded our utility software. That was fine before the storm, when we had, not that much activity. Now we have a ton of activity, and it's very labor intensive for our utility clerks. So we've had, in addition to the fact that our hacking taught us that we need a cloud-based solution instead of something that here in a closet. So we've had several software companies do demonstrations. I don't have the final, but we'll get that for the next budget meeting to kind of give you an idea of what, our proposal, what we think we need to do with software. I mean, it's costing you either way. It's either costing you employee time, you're gonna be paying for a software upgrade. But there's definitely, it's difficult to manage that many accounts with a lot of workarounds. Springbrook, definitely when you migrate to a new software program, your data migration, taking your data that you have now and migrating it to a new platform, if you will, is costly and time consuming. So if we could stay with Springbrook and improve that user experience without having to do data migration, that would be the best. Did you guys do the Springbrook demo yet?
I did not do it, but it's been done.
So, but we'll should have that for the next budget meeting to kind of give you guys our proposal of what we need to do. But I don't think that we can continue to operate with such a manual process with the number of utility accounts that we're seeing and all the activity there that we really didn't have in the past.
That includes the stuffing of envelopes and everything too, something that, 'Cause I did that one day and I couldn't believe the amount of time that she would have to spend. I mean, it was a stack. I sat there, I think, for 3 hours
Yeah.
and looked at what I'd done. Look what
Yeah, I
was
took care of that right after the storm.
Okay.
We send them over to Creative Printing and they do them for $93, so.
Good.
Took care of that one already.
Hey,
Shows you
are we
how
on
much
the
your labor
server?
work.
Are we on, you mentioned earlier that,
We did.
I'm gonna show my, I mean, I know
Here.
just enough to get, to ask some pretty silly questions. But we're on a server, we're not on the
Yeah.
cloud?
We are not on the cloud-based
But
solution.
he asked a good question.
That is good.
We wanna go to a cloud because we were pretty terrified in that hacking that we lost
Well,
everything.
the reason I raised that question at the store, we've been on the server on our system, and it's just a pain in the butt. I mean, it's always outdated, and you're always spending a lot of money, and we went to a cloud system. And we've been very pleased, because, I mean, dang, servers are expensive.
Well,
And you have to all the updates that every time you turn around, after a while, just because it was involving a lot of money, I've tried to learn more about it than I would normally, because I don't have a lot of
And it
patience. But
seems you always are updated.
so,
Yeah.
if we lose internet, we can't produce through the server, right?
You come through a cloud either with no internet.
Yeah, you still have to have your internet, but what is recommended is
But you
you
can't
have-
run offline?
No, you still have to have connectivity to get to your cloud-based solution, but
I thought we were on the cloud, that's the reason.
no, we're not, and that's part of the software proposal, we're looking for, companies that offer a cloud-based solution. Because if we had not been successful with that hacking attempt, we would have lost everything. So they recommend a cloud-based solution off-site as well as an on-site. So you've got two, if one's out, I mean, if this building had been destroyed in the hurricane, what we have is sitting in that closet, so it would all been gone as well, so.
Okay. So you're saying this budget has nothing to do with any of that?
It has
It's
not, we have not incorporated
It
that
has-
in there still.
It has 20,000 in it
But
for
that's-
software so far. That's just a guess. I think it's gonna be higher.
I think it's gonna be much higher. We still have equipment we need to upgrade that makes.
Well, I thought we
seven-
did something several months ago.
We did, has he
Small
finished it?
stuff,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
small stuff. It was, triage, basically fixing it, but we still have other things. we
Was it
need to
like
do.
$50,000?
No, it's 11,000. And we did, again, that was just kinda triage to get us right out of the hacking and get things, we couldn't be hacked again.
Okay.
But there's still things we need to do. We have not, as most government entities, we're not that diligent with technology. And moving on to fire and ESU. You can see from 19 to 20, we cut a lot from fire department, a lot.
So we can cut, we had a discussion this morning, we can cut
We
more
can
from
cut
the
health
from the
insurance.
health insurance side of it. There's 7 people in fire department at the moment, of which only 3 actually take health insurance from the city. The others have their own private coverage, either through wives or and they're young enough to be sit on their family plan. So there's only that 90,000 on the health insurance costs to the city should be significantly less. But I would be lying if I said I know the exact amount, but you could probably knock 45 off of that if we stay with the same employees we have at the moment, and as much as they don't move on and we have to employ somebody else. But we could knock somewhere between 40 and 50,000 off the insurance side of things if it remains the way it is at the moment. Because just
Yeah,
because
but
we
you wanna be covered in case you lose people and you.
We had 3 openings when I projected the budget, and I again didn't know what coverage level we were gonna take, so I projected it. That's why it's that high. Ended up hiring people that didn't take it.
The ones that have come on board recently are relatively young. I've kind of, I'm hoping that I've nailed them down somewhat as best as one can in the modern world of making sure that people stay longer rather than shorter, and by incentivizing them in certain ways of what we can do and what we can't do for them, and so on and so forth. And they seem on board, but then that can change. All it takes is one person to say something to them, you know, they jump over to Bay County EMS or something like that, which happened to one of our guys who I thought was going to stay for a while. But, you know, if we can give them a solid footing to stand on, I think we are, where we are right now, we're reasonably good with the employees that we have, and they should stay with us for, I would hope, you know, a reasonable length of time.
Can we go back one page quick? I just remember something I want to touch on that we didn't touch on. And that is under professional services, you notice that it went from 123 to 0, 123,000 to 0. That was the inmates services. We never started it. Now it's not the time to start it, so we just cut it out.
That's the mowing of the right of ways.
The mowing of the right of ways and all that we were gonna start doing. So that's why that's been eliminated.
So we're not gonna have it this year or next year.
It's a lot of money.
On that page on the fuel and Lucas, what does that go to on the general government?
General government,
Get on that same page you backed up to?
that's why we cut travel elsewhere, because that's where it actually gets billed to.
He's talking about fuel and lubricants.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about too. Post office, all that, when you travel somewhere. Under general government. General government doesn't have a vehicle, that's reimbursement.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't know,
You
did
couldn't
you have
use
any
that
vehicles in this general government?
What's that?
We don't have any vehicles under the, you said we had 6 employees.
There is no city vehicle under that, no. But we reimburse every day that somebody runs to the post office or the bank or wherever.
And how many employees do you have, Sandy?
Pardon me?
How many employees do we have?
Six firefighters myself, and then we don't have an overtime budget. So what we have in there is volunteer salary as such, so whenever any firefighter takes time off or is sick, we can bring our numbers up by using the part-time or volunteer staff that we have on our books. And that varies depending on what people are up to, but that number is, I think, at the moment about 7 or 8 different people who come in at different times during the year, depending on when we need them. And they're also, some of them are retired firefighters who've moved on to different jobs, who have, you know, they were lieutenants in other departments and so on. And what they bring with them is the training and the knowledge that we might be lacking with the younger generation that we've picked up. So they're a vital part of our training and bringing us up to speed, so to speak.
And just to catch up our 2 new council members, Adrian and I and the chief met with Bay County and discussed having Bay County pick up fire services for Mexico Beach. And their answer was they cannot do that at this time. It could be something that you guys could look at again down the road, but when we met with the county, they just said it's not something that they could do right now. And that's how we ended up getting an increase in our MTSU, small increase. And I think that's where we keep hitting the county, is an increase in that rate, because we're providing fire services to all the unincorporated areas around our city. In Bay County, we need to make sure that they're compensating us, because when that rate was established many moons ago, we had a volunteer fire department. So I think that's something that you want to keep a close eye on, and make sure the county's paying the city the fair share, because as these areas start to be developed, we need to make sure. But we could not make that happen with the county. You know, they said come back in a few years, but right now it's just not something that they could take on. They just felt they were overloaded at this point. I think the worst thing that the city could do at this point is to go backwards with our fire department. We have a fully staffed, fully professional fire department, and as we've been told many, many times, our risk for fire right now is greater than ever. In addition, with the lack of medical facilities, I mean, and the situation in our area, I know I shared this with someone earlier today, when my husband had surgery Thursday a week ago, he had complications after surgery, and the doctor did not want me to bring him back to Mexico Beach. So I just think that now is not the time to cut our fire department. Sandy has done a wonderful job cutting budget, looking for money, applying for grants, anything and everything, that we could do. And we just keep doing that. We've applied for, the federal SAFER grant, which could be significant if we get that. I think that we may know late August, early September. And that money is to help staff your fire department. So that's not equipment, that's actual manpower. So that's just my commentary on the fire department.
Did I hear correct that somebody said one time the county was just gonna offer us just $15,000 for sugar sand?
The county used to pay us $15,000 for MSTU every year. And now they just increased it to $21,000. And that's to cover unincorporated, including the sugar sand.
Which I think is way, way low.
Yeah.
Way,
What they
way low.
collect.
But then again, at the moment,
They only-
unfortunately, sugar sand isn't out of the
They only
ground
collect
yet.
21,000, I thought they
Sugar
collected
sand is just a
60,000.
big sand pit, right?
That's what it was last year, and all of a sudden now it's 20. Oh, remember last year we said it was 60,000, because that was a projection they used. I don't think that projection was correct. Because I've seen the numbers, they sent me the spreadsheet, it's 21.
But it should grow exponentially every
It's
year.
once
now,
they start
because
building.
Once they start building the likes of sugar sands, and they start obviously taxing those individuals, that money in that account should increase every year going forward.
But it has to still have to go to the county, then come to us.
Yeah, but in theory, if we
County
see
collects
the
it.
exact amount, they will still give it to us every year in theory.
But we have not been getting the full value that was owed, so that's the difference you're gonna see between.
Maybe we can fight back taxes.
Yeah, wish we could collect it on that.
Is there any other unincorporated area of Bay County that we have to serve, or is that Gulf County going up to Overstreet?
Once you go past the Harmon property, it turns into Gulf County. But that doesn't mean that we don't go up there and help
No,
them.
So the
no,
Harmons are our service area.
Yeah, exactly. The
Okay.
Harmons are on our side. Once you go past Harmon property,
it's Gulf.
it's Gulf.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, it's not there now, but the Catholic Church was part of it.
Unincorporated Bay County, that's
No,
correct.
taxable.
So what's our millage rate? What's an MSTU?
1.38.
1.3 for
Yeah,
unincorporated?
138.
1.38.
1.3.
I've got that one.
So the 21,000 is 100% of the taxable value of the unincorporated property?
That's what they're
So
telling us.
they're giving us,
Everything.
That's what they're saying.
They're giving us 1.38 mils of the unincorporated area we cover,
That's crazy.
which is what they're collecting.
well, but I mean, that's the value of that property, based on the tax assessors.
But their first projection was closer to 60.
Well, that was what they used in their argument when we
70.
first approached them, so I think that was just.
But the numbers are supported by the tax assessor's appraisal.
Yeah,
We assume, yeah.
they sent me the spreadsheet from the tax assessor, yes.
Okay. Hmm.
Is the retirement for the firemen set in stone? I mean, is that,
Absolutely set by state statute, and they are high risk, so it's over 20%.
I know that'd be so. It's mandatory and we have to do it.
It's like 23%.
And we do, the level of service and how many firefighters to each call, that's all based on state statute. So,
The insurance went up.
10%.
So we're hoping the insurance is gonna come down significantly. When this was projected, it was projected on the fact that,
We had 3 openings when I projected the budget. No idea what those 3 people were gonna take for health insurance coverage, so we projected high. We just hired the last one last week, so they did not all take, higher coverage, they're pretty much singles, so.
But it could change.
I can read it, but as fast as they're leaving,
All right,
Okay, I think it's clear that Tanner's thinking that, and I don't disagree, that we need a fire department. We need people here to support it, so.
That's why we're really pushing hard to get the SAFER grant, because that will help staff our fire department, and that will really help.
How many trucks do we have, Sandy?
Pardon me,
How
sir?
many trucks or vehicles do we have in the fire?
Basically, we have, old engine 43, and now we have the new, mini pumper, both of which are, basically in service.
And we do have, you
And
have,
then we have I have what is called Utility 43, which is the old 2007 Chevy. And then there's Rescue 43, which was the one that was bought back in 2017, when it was an ESU, and that's what they used to run to all their medical calls. Now what we do is we run to every call in either one of the trucks. We don't. The rescue truck is used only as a utility truck, to be brutally honest with you, right now. It's not a vital part of our
Fleet.
fleet, thank you for the word.
You have 4 of them, so
Pardon me, sir?
3 or 4?
4.
Are we now paying, what, 25,000 a year for the next 10 years for the new truck? What's our payment on that truck?
we borrowed it from the reserve fund.
Mm-hmm.
We paid it out?
Mm-hmm.
You have that repayment built in here?
No.
So the truck was purchased from reserve funds, and the plan was to reimburse from special assessments, the reserve fund.
Assessment's good.
The assessment's gone, it's all coming from the general fund, so it
So,
doesn't
no.
really make sense to put that in as a debt obligation back to the reserve fund, because it's all general government now.
It makes sense to have a reserve fund right now.
I tend to agree that we need all the
I
cash
mean,
we
if
can
we
get our
aren't,
hands
if
on.
we aren't in the crisis mode of, I mean, it's great to have a reserve, but under the condition we're in, but
We
to put
don't.
money in it is taking money from something else.
Yeah, we don't have a reserve, let's
Right.
just be clear, it's gone.
I have not made the transfer, but it's gone.
You didn't have to.
Yeah, it did it itself.
No, I don't think this is the time to even talk about reserve fund.
Again, I know it's only small fry, but I would hope that the fuel and lubricant bill will be able to, I've not actually seen what last year's physical costs of fuels and lubricants were. I would hope again that we will be able to cut off that, but I wasn't able to take anything off that budget, not knowing what we spent last year, but it does to me seem rather high for the amount of mileage that we do in theory do to have over $1,000 a month in just fuels and lubricants. To me seems high, but without the figures in front of me, I was unable to play with that number. But I hope, again, when I ran the place in the Bahamas, not a penny went through my hands that wasn't worthwhile spending. I'll do the same here, is the best I can say to you. I will not spend a penny that is not necessary to spend in any manner of form. So,
And this is our first budget meeting, so the living, breathing budget as we go through it. We'll
This one's
adjust it
pretty
as we
good.
learn more.
I know it's.
This one's pretty
All right, let's move on.
good.
Police is next. Police, we're at $854,000. It is the biggest hit to our budget. As you guys well know, we've lost pretty much most of the vehicles. We haven't enough insurance money to replace one vehicle. We need probably three to four. One of the things that we haven't done is the council has not instructed me to go to the county and talk to the sheriff's department about providing that service. So we did that for fire. I believe that it's the right thing to do, to at least question that and get a number from the sheriff's office. I would encourage each of you to call Eddie, the city manager in Callaway. The sheriff's department provides police services to the city of Callaway, and ask for his feedback. What he'll tell you is it's working extremely well, extremely well. Not only do you get the benefit of your law enforcement, you get crime scene investigators, you get, you know, all homicide investigators, you get a drug task force, you get all of the services that the sheriff's office has to offer, the city gets that. We don't have those types of services for our citizens today. So that's a throwing this out there to say we looked at the fire, maybe we should talk to the sheriff and look at that for police as well, because this is the biggest portion of our budget, and I just know right now we have lots of needs with the police department, with vehicles, with equipment, IT stuff, we've lost so much.
So is Eddie saving money?
Yes, yes. And he says.
Plus he's getting more services.
He's getting a lot more services for less money, and the city doesn't have to deal with it anymore. You don't have to deal with the lawsuits and all the things that go along with, law enforcement. That's all handled by the county.
I think it's something we should look into.
I think we should too. Because I think we've just reached that point.
Yeah.
You know, we did this a few years, well, a few years, we've done this before. And we never overcame, the council at the time never overcame the pushback from the community as if we have to have our own police department. I mean, our own uniform Mexico Beach,
Right.
that stigma that goes with that, and I just don't agree with that. If you look at our police department, historically, we have had turnover. I mean, it's so difficult to find people, qualified people. Sheriff's office gives us, they don't put people out here or anywhere that aren't qualified. And those folks that would be with sheriff's department people could be just as much a part of this community as a guy that, a lot of people don't live here anyway. This whole thing of, they gotta live here, well, they can't live here, they never have. So, I think with not only budget, but just moving forward on the recovery of our community, I think we should definitely approach the county and if you would, a proposal, get a proposal.
Like real soon.
And,
Mayor, last time we looked at this, did you ever get to the point of getting a number?
yeah, Frank gave us a number, I think he just took our budget.
Okay.
The problem we got now, I don't think we have anything that Tommy would want in terms of, I'm talking about, we don't have any infrastructure, we don't have any vehicles, we don't have, he'd have to give us but I believe Frank, and of course he would, and I'm sure Tommy would too, they would interview who we have, and if they're, could come to work for them, then so be it. But that takes us out of the hiring and firing, and it takes us out of the who's qualified and all the things that go into having a good police department. They run it, they run a top ship. But Frank offered us, I think, just a transfer of funds.
He did offer that for the first year, because I remember it very clearly. He said he would take it over that first year for what we had budgeted, but it would increase each year, the cost.
Well, I think it would increase based on, or decrease based on what the budget numbers are. Wasn't any built-in automatic increase. I
Yes.
don't remember that.
Based on cost of living adjustments,
Yeah,
insurance.
types of things that go
all that
with,
stuff, yeah, that we
the same
deal with.
thing we deal with.
Yes,
same thing we deal with.
Determine how many people they would have to come through here over. a
Well,
period
that's
of
the
time.
proposal. That's right, Tommy,
That's what the.
oh, I'm sorry, you talking about, yeah, you talking about how big a force would they give us?
Right.
Well, they would give us, you know, right now, I guess that's something he would propose to us.
So I'll just make that request of the sheriff to give us a proposal.
Yeah.
Is that good with everybody? Just
Yeah.
throw it out there and see?
Well, if we could have them come here and just present something to us.
Well, that's what they would do. That's what Frank did. I'm sure Tommy would do the same thing. They came, gave us a layout.
Now's a good time to
Comment on
move
that?
a building,
Yeah,
figure out.
sure.
In a small town I came from, Oldsmar, Florida, your size, when I moved there 15 years ago, had the same thing, police department. They did away with it, went to the sheriff's department. It was the best move they ever made. People were in an uproar when it first happened. We're gonna lose our police department, it's our police department. Beat everybody to death, like probably what you see before happening. They took the hell with it, they went with the sheriff's department. It was the best move they made. Over the years, I've seen it improve. The budget didn't keep going up, and the city was so pleased with it, because they had a community police officer. He was the one guy who was there all the time, so everybody got to know him. They even went out and hired additional just for traffic, and they paid for themselves in 2 months, just writing tickets for people speeding and traffic enforcement. And the services you get, they're professionals, they have everything, crime scenes, the whole 9 yards that you don't have here. And we kept our fire department. We have, Oldmore still has their own little fire department, which worked out great, but the police department went with the sheriff, and it was the best move they made.
It's,
There you go.
definitely.
A living testimony.
Yeah, but I do encourage you guys, just so you'll have the same information, talk to Eddie over at the City of Callaway. I asked him if I could, ask you guys to call, so please do, and I think he'll tell you, and he said, and if you want Santa Claus on a helicopter at Christmas, you can get that too.
Eddie's a little goofy like me, so you'll.
This day.
We had Santa Claus in the fire truck.
His last name, he's the city manager of Callaway.
I can't remember his last name. You were wrong, you were.
Can't remember Eddie's last name, anyways,
What name I can tell you?
it's working out very, very well for Callaway. Okay, I'll do that.
Just in case that don't happen though, I'd like to know how many people we can do have, on the
That'll be
payroll.
8.
We're budgeted for 8. We have 7 right
6
now.
right
Are you counting?
We haven't filled.
Well, you're counting.
Well, we haven't.
7 counting, Brittany. We actually budget for A. I think we have 6 right now. We have 7 officers. 1 is, on light duty. So,
How many actual police cars do we have running that'll make it from here to Weewald?
We have all our police cars, but I don't know how many of them will make it.
We-
Without pushing.
we have, I think, 4, that are on the road right now. And those
We
are,
probably have 8, but 4 of them that'll make it to Weed.
I was thinking,
and those are,
can we get a breakdown on that? Could I get a breakdown? That way I would know,
absolutely.
just in case this doesn't go through, I'd like to know.
And keep in mind that the vehicles we have are those donated after the storm by the
Florida.
Florida
Highway Patrol.
Highway Patrol or someone, that we're having mechanical issues with those already. They need to be replaced.
Now, what happened to, you mentioned that last budget. I think last budget.
Yeah.
Didn't we have like 2 hours of discussion over cars and
We did.
vehicles?
Mhm.
We didn't order, we don't have any
We,
cars?
well, we found out right after the hurricane that they had not been ordered.
So we,
We nixed it, cause that was
Right.
$100,000.
Did you say they had not been?
They had not been ordered.
We had 3, I think.
they had not been ordered and the hurricane had happened and we needed the revenue, so we,
So what did we do with that line item?
That was capital.
yeah, it was this 90,000.
Yeah, it's 90,000 still sitting in there. And we've got it up to 110, for 20, because if we maintain the police department, we're gonna need vehicles,
Yeah,
at least
That's
3.
another reason.
yeah.
All right, I'm in code. Let me get back here. What have we done in, where do we have that
If
money?
you look down under capital expenses,
I'm
hundred and
trying
ten
to find
thousand,
On the bottom.
very last entry.
Print this a little smaller. But
Always the bottom,
I'm looking,
Vehicle,
total
90,000.
capital, there you go, thank you. All right, so we do have it in there.
We have it budgeted, for,
We just transferred, we just moved it over and.
We haven't really done anything with it per se, but we said not to order it. It's still sitting there as a budgeted amount, but we're not doing it. So it hasn't been transferred.
But we're gonna put it in the budget, which means we.
It is
we
for
can- We
this
have
budget.
access to the, you know,
Exactly.
it's a budgeted item for capital.
Correct.
but anything that we didn't spend this year, of course, that'll just
Right.
roll over
Roll
to
over, right.
reserve.
Nothing's going to reserve this.
Yeah, I can't imagine we get anything in there, but I don't think we're gonna get much left over.
Okay,
Alright,
got it.
code enforcement. She is still a sworn police officer, so that's working out well. When we're short on police, we move her over as we need to, so Cheryl can work both. We are, code enforcement is, she's busier than we've ever been, as you can imagine. It's a full-time position.
And her husband's insurance is better than ours, so she has dropped our
Yeah.
family coverage.
She doesn't have health insurance. She's doing a great job. And everything she deals with is usually, contentious. And she seems to do a really good job of, handling those. I get people stopping me, someone stopped me in the post office a couple of weeks ago, just complimenting on how professional she is and what a good job she does.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I mean, in dealing with, the citations we're sending out for the debris removal and the unsafe structures, she's just really handled those well and helping people walk through that and taking care of this. We do need to, she does need some training. She needs, the code enforcement certification.
What did we increase by? Well, I don't know if we did, because I don't know what.
We
the actual is.
actually, it was budgeted for part-time, we moved the difference from the police department budget, when we moved her over
Okay,
from the police
that's
department,
right,
we moved
that's
that
right.
over.
Retirement went up 8,000, so
Well, cause she's high risk as a police officer, she's in the high risk pool.
Why don't we put her in the code?
Well, then we can't use her as officer when we need her,
Oh, she bounces around?
yes.
I think we said that, I was.
What happens if we go to the sheriff's?
Change.
She can still be a sworn officer, we would just have to work that out with the sheriff on how he wanted to. If
Okay.
he needed to use her, if he didn't, then there wouldn't be a reason to have a sworn officer.
It seems, from what I've heard over the several months, and especially since the storm, that she does a real good job, and I've had a couple of people talk to me that didn't agree with her, but she was very diplomatic with the situation. And in some cases, people are still in a bind with the insurance company and all this, and so she's got the leeway to work with that, and I'm glad to hear that she is doing that. I mean, she's just not stepping on them with a steel boot, you know? And especially this time after the storm, and so many people are still fussing with insurance. And that, you know, a lot of people don't have the money to do the things that we're asking them to do. So, I've been pleased with it.
The animal care, that's Bay County, that's the cost to Bay County for animal control. You would think that number would go down.
Hopefully.
You think think some of them blew away with you.
Well, I mean, just the people aren't here, so you would think, that number may go down, but we left it the same for now.
That number never goes down.
They always find a way
They
to
always
max
find a way
that
to
out.
pull.
You can't live here without owning a dog. Or
My
a
dog
cat.
owns me.
Oh. I understand. I live
General,
there too.
general maintenance? There are no other questions on code?
This is Tommy. Okay.
We have 2 employees.
Two. Mm-hmm.
We'll give you that breakdown, Jerry, so you'll have that. Of course, Tommy is in here, and Tommy's the, other half of TNT. Thomas and Tommy, and so he is getting a differential, salary differential for performing that job. And as I said earlier, it's working out extremely well. The guys may not think so.
My guys don't think so, but me and Tommy do.
I was gonna ask, did we cut out, on-call?
They're still on call,
Do they have to answer?
yeah, they're on call, yeah.
Okay.
There was a question, an HR question that we're checking on. I can tell you from my 30-plus years in public utilities, when you're on call, you only get paid when you come in. But if you're on call, you're the one that's gotta answer that phone. So a question has come up and we're checking with legal on that.
Okay. I just heard a little conversation about it. Okay.
As Tom said, guys may not be.
Yeah, I ain't most like person to put words right now, I can tell you that.
Okay, did we eliminate some vehicles going home?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You're not on call, I'm not gonna pay you to drive a truck home.
Yeah, we've made some changes and tightened the reins a little bit in Public Works and saving money and,
I'm not the most liked right now, but it is what it is.
I know. I'm in the video in the parking lot.
so you guys, again, just like code enforcement, sometimes you may get some complaints. But so, anyway, so Tommy's salary is in here as well.
How
That's
many
pretty sure.
vehicles in yours?
General maintenance,
General maintenance, there's one.
okay,
General maintenance, you got $130,000 and over $12,000 worth of stuff for them to work with. But
Well, most of general maintenance, they purchase something, it's like if they go doing work on
they gonna
boat
spread that
ramp,
to,
they send it to
Yeah.
Parks and Rec, they don't actually budget.
right. This is-
Operating materials don't go to them,
Right.
because they're budget work.
Yeah, and that's a good point. This is mostly any tools that they need, but the actual cost of whatever
Repairs
repair
and
they're
maintenance
doing
goes
would
to
go
the
to that
department.
department.
all right.
Roads and streets,
This is 3 employees. Coulter, Farmer, Matt and Chet. Nothing's changed.
now professional services here.
How many vehicles in that part?
2 right offhand, but then we got, I don't know if you consider the tractors and equipment in that budget also.
Just
But driving vehicles, 2 that I can tell you for sure.
And we're still in the process of working through that with insurance and replacing some of the equipment that was lost. I know you guys would replace mowers and
We got a
edgers,
backhoe that could be replaced.
but we still have equipment that needs to be replaced, that we're working through. The 92,000 in professional services, that's the Mark Garrison yard debris pickup. Again, when you consider the loss of structures, that number should go down. But right now, we're picking up a lot of debris that wasn't necessarily storm debris that FEMA will reimburse us for. It's just people are trying to clear and clean up and not necessarily storm, so we've been picking that up under our regular yard debris pickup. And there's a lot of it, so.
Do we have a certain day we come or just?
We do, and it's on the website, it's Wednesdays. 2 Wednesdays, every other week,
We,
on Wednesdays. Sometimes it'll run over onto Thursday,
Matter
but
of fact, I think it's this week.
this week might be a pickup
Yeah.
week. It's twice a
Oh.
month.
Is,
It was off last week.
is Mark on a pay as needed basis? I mean,
We,
we don't have a
flat rate, no.
flat, we
He invoices
usually
us.
pay.
He invoices us,
Invoices.
yes, for the number of loads that he picked up.
Yeah,
And right now, we don't have any equipment to pick up the debris with, so he's doing it all for us right now. But going forward, that number, you should see that come down, at least for a short period of time.
what about our equipment, Tommy, or Tanya, meaning our, our tractors and our backhoe and our.
Right now, we're missing, we didn't replace the backhoe that got destroyed. We haven't replaced the grapple that debris used to pick up. That hasn't been replaced yet. And then the only actual true equipment I think's been replaced is what the water plant's been done.
Yeah, we
Well,
did
yeah,
mowers and blowers.
By the mowers, yeah.
We are, so before Philip left, we were looking at the equipment because Philip didn't want, he felt we needed different equipment instead of just ordering what we had before. There was other equipment that would help us do more. So he was looking at that. We still don't have a final from the insurance, so we're still in limbo with the insurance
You're
company.
close, the main thing they're waiting on is the generator sensor.
So once we have that final, we'll know how much money we have, and then we're gonna take a look at the equipment that we had before, that we lost, and is that what we need to purchase, or is there something different that would,
They've been gone 3 weeks.
be more useful, so that's what
It's been gone.
we're in the process of doing that right now.
Marshall Brothers told me about 3 weeks ago.
That's exciting.
Okay, canal,
Quick question on your streets, is FEMA gonna pay for all the damage that's done with picking up stuff on the roads or?
FEMA, they will, roads and streets, if that's part of public assistance damage repair, we do have that in, we just haven't estimated the damages yet, because we're gonna wait until the big trucks are gone.
Yeah.
Canal.
2.5 employees.
I like to see that half.
Ben, Nick, 50% of Troy.
So,
So Troy's,
Split between vehicle maintenance and canal.
we don't have a vehicle just for the canal, we just sort of use.
Is there a vehicle?
There is one assigned vehicle.
We have
And
the push mow and then the
dredge
dredge.
itself.
do we ever assess the dredge? I mean, I know it's working, but I heard.
I know Troy was working on it a while back about figuring out how we can get new panels put on the roof of the dredge and stuff, but I haven't heard nothing since.
But the engine?
It's running just as smooth as.
Okay, so that,
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the mechanics of it, unfortunately it's working, it's just,
It
looks
sucked,
of
but
it,
it'd be
the
better off
aesthetics
if
is
it'd
what's
been
messed up.
underwater.
Insurance did pay us for those panels to be replaced, so.
we're just trying to figure out, the guy that we were gonna get, use it to make the fiberglass panels, he no longer does it. So now we're trying to figure out, if we can figure out somebody else to do it, we don't wanna go back with steel, it's just gonna rust right back out again. So they were looking at going something different, but.
No changes.
And I do think we need to make any changes to ensure that that dredge is safe for our employees to operate. But I wouldn't invest a lot of money into that dredge because it's not really, it's not gonna be around for the long haul, and it's certainly not what we need going forward. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind.
is that because of the hurricane?
No, it's,
Where?
it's
It was
wear and
used when we
tear,
bought it,
it's,
wasn't It was used,
no,
it wasn't?
built brand new.
It was brand new?
And it hadn't been that long.
How long ago was it?
I'll,
This year.
I'll talk, we can talk offline, and I'll kind of give you more detail on that.
No changes.
But anyways, canal's pretty straightforward. Vehicle maintenance,
Half an
that's,
employee.
half of Troy,
Yes.
and that's,
One vehicle.
pretty straightforward.
We did cut, the utilities out of there because they don't pay,
Right, and rentals and leases,
and rentals and leases as well.
because that's all just under public works.
And he's another part of like general maintenance. When you go and have cop car work done, it gets charged to the police, it don't get charged to vehicle maintenance. So he's one in charge to the department he works on.
Next one is parks,
Pam and Bill,
2 employees.
one vehicle. Lots a lot.
We have, 30,000 in utilities for parks, since, all of our parks, but one is gone.
Canal's the biggest.
Yeah, and the biggest one is the canal. But we're leaving it as it is.
That's pretty much. That's it. My favorite.
Next one's debt service.
I mean, let me back up to the parks. I don't. What do we do there? So I know we don't have too many parks and recs. But what's paying the bill?
Mowing the right of ways, you still have 7th Street Park, you still have the Welcome Center property,
Boat ramp,
the boat ramp.
fish cleaning station, clean the bathrooms here at Public Works, yeah, the little bathroom we got outside here. Motor grass in Public Works.
Jerry, the inmate crew that we had the budget item for, earlier to mow all the right of ways, we've eliminated that. So now Public Works,
Yes,
Parks and Rec will now be
Parks and Rec,
picking up that
Public
work. It was gonna be outsourced to, an inmate workforce, and now we're bringing that back inside. So that's gonna pretty much in the summertime, or at least the warmer months, they'll be doing that right away, yeah. Did that answer your question?
That's close.
My door is always open.
Where are we, debt service?
Debt
Debt
service, 800 megahertz. You know anything like
Well, it's because every year we're told it's happening and it never happens.
that? The 800 megahertz, we don't have a budget amount there. That's the tower that the city's gonna, host for the county here in the Public Works, area. Once that's up and running, then the city will be paying, what's that annual amount?
It's been 3 years since I've looked at it.
It's a significant chunk of change, for that service. Every city in the county has to pay their share of it. By the city hosting that tower and not charging rent to the county, that saves everybody money, including us. But the agreement with the county is that if we wanna lease that tower to anybody else to generate revenue, we can. So we can make money off of the tower.
When's that tower gonna look?
I just had something on my
I
desk.
seen it
Um,
emailed.
That's why it's not.
They go through the building department, just like a typical development order.
I mean, it's soon, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, they've already started the process. I just don't know where it stands currently.
Well, no, they've been telling me for 4 years to budget for it. It's
Mm.
not
What do
happening, so-
oh, never mind, I guess it's not, we don't have anything for the vehicle, police. Yeah.
Oh, that's done.
That's those leases.
Yeah, they're done.
And then principal and interest, that's on the,
USDA,
SunTrust.
that's the SunTrust.
what's USDA?
Well, funny story. So USDA, the USDA loan from 2013,
Yeah.
on the water
Water
plant.
plant.
Yeah, it was being budgeted here and in the water fund. So we don't need to budget for it twice. That was just chilling every year. So I took it out.
We got one retiring though, when's our next one, 2022?
That's this one, the principal interest, the SunTrust. Once those are retired, this page goes away.
Nothing's retired prior to 2022?
This page is the transfers out that correspond to the revenues, just the in and outs, so. Dedicated funds. Before we go to enterprise funds, you wanna recap?
Say that again? This page is what?
The dedicated funds from the revenues that we talked about, I'm gonna asterisk, this is them outs. Cause it comes in and then it goes out, transfers out to the canal fund, utility tax fund, boat rent fund, and paving and maintenance. So that canal fund equals your slip rentals, that utility tax fund equals the utility taxes collected, the boat rent fund equals the boat rent money collected, and paving and maintenance equals local gas tax collected. Who's just an
Is there any advantage on the utility tax? You know, we have that dedicated. Is this the annual projected utility tax?
Yeah.
And it's dedicated to what, just refresh my memory?
Public works, I believe.
Anything in public works. It used to be
Paving and maintenance.
paving and maintenance, but now it's anything.
Well, you know, and it's, I guess for everyone sitting here, it's hard to even think of this budget when there's so many things we're talking about that are gonna be bad, or not, or we're not gonna use, or we're not, we don't have, there's no path. Should we consider not doing away with certain dedicated funds till we know what the heck we're doing? Because once, by being dedicated, the reason I'm asking that, by being dedicated, those monies are set aside.
They're locked in.
Think about Vinnie or Tanya, if there's, I don't know that there's, we still have the money, but it saves us meeting and having a public meeting and
It's more flexible. than-
more flexibility. Just, I don't know if we even have enough dedicated money that it makes a difference. But if it does, maybe we should think about that.
So I will tell you this, all four of these funds are in the pooled cash account. These four funds are cash flowing us right now anyway. Even though they're dedicated, on paper,
I
we've
know,
got
but that,
recorded
but
these
see,
things.
as long as we keep them dedicated, there's an expectation
They'll
level
pay back.
that they'll be there. Because that was the whole purpose, and I know we're not in that, a lot of things are
Mhm.
not operating as on paper as we thought. But I think it would be cleaner, at least to think about somebody saying, well, you said, I've been paying my utility tax and, it's not going there.
So I think really the only one, because paving and maintenance, isn't that set by statute? That one you can't change.
Yeah, that one is.
Boat ramp, I don't think you can change either, because that's a use fee, so I don't think you.
Well, I don't
can
think that one
put
should
in.
be.
I don't either, I
Well,
think
canal
that one,
funds a use fee too.
and the canal fund's a use fee, I think the only one that you could do that with is utility tax, because I think you
Well,
guys have it set
if
by
it
ordinance.
merits doing it, it may not. Because like you say, it's already in the pool cash. It just might be cleaner if we didn't have that on record as being dedicated. Even though I'm the world's, I like having pots of money.
You wanna recap?
But
Go into the
it might be
enterprise
a case
funds.
where we don't need too many pots of money.
Just represent.
We just really need more, don't we?
So just to recap, the general fund budget represents 7.231 mils to the taxpayers.
From what?
5.351.
And again, keep in mind, this doesn't include any costs that the city's gonna be on the hook to paying related to Hurricane Michael. That could be 3 years plus down the road. Some of it may hit us this year, but we feel comfortable with donations, and what we have with SRF grants and other things will be okay first year for the city's match. But this does not include any of that match.
It's a 1.88 mil increase. It's close to the rollback rate, that helps.
how is it that we need an increased millage rate and we're getting,
You added the fire
This is the
department.
fire department. It went from special assessment, it's now
Okay.
funded, that's the difference. So to the public, their millage is going up 1.88, at least in this proposed budget, but they no longer have the special assessment for fire, that goes away.
Swap off.
In the words of Jeff Tindler, sounds like smoke and mirrors.
I mean, we just, it's on us to make sure that that's communicated effectively to the public, that this is a combination of your ad valorem and your fire assessment. Any questions on general fund? Okay,
with the cuts that you made, there's almost nothing to add. I mean,
we did.
The police is our best bet.
excuse me,
The police will be our best bet to cut something, if we can.
well, as we move through, like y'all said earlier, there's a few areas, but in this budget,
We can sharpen up a little bit, but
$8,000 or $10,000 makes a difference.
Yeah.
It may be, you know, maybe, but when it gets to that millage rate,
a little bit help.
okay.
Okay.
Based on 1,500 users, all of these.
So all of the enterprise funds are based on 1,500 users.
And the SRF gave us a 2-year loan forbearance, that's why the debt is low.
That's all I think is what,
2 years, right? The biggest thing across all 3 enterprise funds, you'll notice that the depreciation expense has been eliminated. It's a tough one for me to do, but short of doing that, the utility increases would have been astronomical. The depreciation expense is always budgeted for because it shifts into a cash balance and helps us save money to repair in the future, buy a garbage truck, etc. But that number can move, I mean, it's not a have to, we're still gonna deduct the depreciation at audit time, but depreciation is not cash. But we budget for it as cash, and we save that money. I eliminated all of the depreciation expense, and about 3 years ago, we played with it slightly and brought it back, and now it's gone again, because that one can move. It's dangerous to do long term, but I think it's the best bet right now. The water fund does show a increase of 9 cents per 1,000 gallons.
is that an actual increase or the, pass-through from Bay County?
Have not gotten the pass-through numbers yet.
So the proposed rate changes currently for water is 9 cents
Per 1,000.
per thousand. Sewer, 14 cents per thousand. No increase for
40
sanitation.
cents.
Oh, you're looking at this one.
40 cents, yeah, this
So
is
what
per
does that
1,000.
mean
This
to a
is
bill?
Total.
Where-
40 cents on the sanitation bill, 36 cents on the water bill, typical bill, 56 cents
Yeah.
for sewer. Utility tax, an increase of 2 cents. So basically, a residential customer would go from $115.61 to $116.95. Which if you think about what we've just gone through,
$1.34.
pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Amazing.
That's up the depreciation.
Adrian? Yeah. I'm just thinking about what you just said. And you gotta help me there. You took the depreciation away, which ultimately became a cash balance
A savings to repair.
at the end of the year. So, what kind of balances do we have in,
Negative,
say that again?
negative cash and all of them except for sanitation. Water and sewer negative.
Well, hell, we can't operate negative.
They are right now, but that's reimbursements coming for some of that stuff and the insurance, so.
Wait a minute. Negative.
The operating account for water is currently negative, as is the sewer.
Okay.
There's insurance funds and such coming that'll bring it back positive. There's also,
Can it maintain?
based on this, it balances.
1,500 customers. The new
If we
budget's
hit 1,500 next year, this balances.
You-
If we don't hit 1,500,
How many do
What
we
up?
actually have?
right now,
Yeah.
about 1,100.
Well,
This was the most.
Dave, what do you think about water?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking.
I'm a little concerned about 1,500. I'm not sure we're gonna get to 1,500 next year.
So the option becomes what? How does this affect our citizens as we walk the dog forward and we have a mid-year rate increase? Right? I mean, what other option is it?
Yeah, you're gonna have to do some mid-year projecting.
And we don't know Bay County's pass through yet,
I do not have Bay County's pass through.
what their rate increase is gonna be. So we still have, 30, 45 days to take a look at it again. I wanted to get some numbers from the building department to see the past couple of weeks, because 2 weeks ago, things were really picking up for new construction, so I wanted to kind of gauge that a little bit and follow that, but 1,500 might be tough. But either pay now or pay later, I mean, you reduce that number and go over the rate increase up front, or you wait and reassess it a little bit later and do a budget amendment, and increase the.
But by taking the depreciation out,
Your cushion's gone, essentially.
and we're still in the negative.
And you won't be saving any money.
But once we get our insurance money, we've got some SRF money coming in, we should be balanced.
SRF's gonna help us out, 'cause that's gonna be.
We shouldn't start out the
And
year
those are
negative.
not, those are grants slash
We've got,
non,
yes, we've got grants, as well as the insurance money.
And we've expended some of that already, and that's why we
Yeah.
are negative.
And so some of that work has already been done, but we don't have the money. So we should start
Okay.
out water and sewer balanced, not in the negative.
and we have no cash reserve in either of those.
Yes.
We
We
have
have
impact.
reserve accounts, yes.
We have impact fees.
We have $415,000 in water reserve and $280,000 in sewer reserve.
Well, why the hell we running that?
Because
On
those are,
paper, we're gonna run it on, I'm
On
just
paper, running
confused how we
negative.
gonna do this.
on paper, running negative because they are bond required reserves. They have to be there per our bonds.
At that level,
Yes. But in 2022,
okay. What about sanitation? I'm not meaning to jump all the way through, but,
Sanitation.
I mean, there's really,
there's not much
That's-
to say.
but sanitation, we also took, does sanitation have a cash reserve?
No, they're not, they're positive too, though. They're healthy.
They're healthy,
Very
Yep.
healthy,
Yep.
yeah.
sanitation is. So-
And they're down
so-
2 employees? One employee. They're
So
down
when
one
it- so when
employee.
it comes time, which we know will happen, roughly every 3 years, we buy a truck.
Correct.
We're gonna have some, we're gonna be able to do that and not say we need to go borrow money or
It'll
do.
probably be 4 years.
Well, we did that once before, went 4 years, but traditionally, we were trying to do 3.
Yeah, that 58,000 depreciation that's in sanitation was for that truck. being I eliminated it next year, it's gonna take a fourth year
To get a new
to
truck.
get that new truck. We're prolonging it 1 year. Because we're not gonna be saving it. But I think we're healthy enough that when the time comes, you should probably have enough money.
Especially with the reduced route,
Yeah,
I think we're fine.
that fund is,
What about our, I'm gonna jump back to impact fees.
yeah,
How are we holding, how is our position there on impact fee money?
on water,
On all of them?
about 100,000 in water, over 1 million in sewer. We need to find a way to spend our sewer impact fees. It's like 1.1 million.
If there's ever a chance to do that, I would think we would be looking at it.
Last week when we were doing this, I kept saying, is there anything I can
Yeah, the only problem with sewer impact is you gotta be limited on what you, how you can spend it.
Well, not necessarily.
You
Not
got,
necessarily.
we fought
We've
that
learned
down.
that.
Well,
We've
that's
learned
it.
that, yeah.
I've been in it before, and I ain't, okay.
I brought 50,000 in sewer.
You give us some good things to approve, I bet you we can be okay with it.
It's all about how you dictate it, and we're just,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, we
Do it right,
sewer's in good shape.
or wrong.
And then the sewer fund,
And Parks and Rec impact fees, how much do we have in Parks and Rec?
40,000, that's
Not-
a guess off the
not
top
But
of my
can
head.
we get that?
Yes.
Can we get a sheet?
Cash balance sheet, yes.
Yes.
One thing that I want you guys to consider is the stormwater impact fee. FEMA was very surprised that we didn't have a stormwater impact fee. Most cities have stormwater impact fee. How else do you fund your stormwater improvements? You don't, so they just don't happen. So I definitely think that's something you guys need to consider. I know it's probably gonna require a study. We may have enough information that we could pull together enough and meet state requirements on the study, but I definitely think you guys should think about stormwater impact fee. That's a very costly item for the city right now, and we just don't have a budget or anywhere to pull that money from when we have things we need to do.
I agree, we need to look at, that's another, I forget, because we got something to do often, what are the impact fees that we currently do? I don't even know what they are, nor I know the percentage that we pay, or that we charge.
They haven't been increased in many, many years. We looked at them in 2014.
Police is $103, fire's $202, Parks and Rec is $900, sewer and water, one's $1250 and one's about $2200.
But we have fire, police,
Parks,
and park.
and then water and sewer.
And,
Right,
yeah, and your fire and police are much less than your parks. So I don't know who did the study, but I would have to,
it was done years ago.
yeah, I think
It's before my time.
I think that's something that the city should definitely look at doing, looking at those fees, and if it means a new study, and also adding a stormwater impact fee. We do, with new construction, we have a lot of work to do on the front end to make sure that we can manage that stormwater for a new structure, and there's just no budget to pull that from.
Or this move from my water bill, add stormwater fee on it. That's what they did, they added stormwater to your monthly water bill.
There's lots of options.
Like how much?
It was a couple of dollars.
Mine was
It was a couple
$18
bucks
a year.
Bucks a month?
It was like $2 a month on your bill for stormwater.
So we have to spend 75,000 for a study. Why don't we just do it?
Add a fee, I don't know, that's something I can ask Nick to check into to see if we can just
But
add
you
that.
do it on just, permitting, when you, on new construction.
We don't do anything with stormwater.
No,
We
but
review
no,
it.
he's saying, Rock's saying it was added to his bill.
Utility.
Yeah, utility bill,
But
per
it's
month.
normally collected at the
That's
time.
an impact fee is, but I think what Rock is saying is they did it as a user fee
Yeah,
instead of an
Oh,
impact fee.
I got you, where's
You
the
get around the
monthly?
study issue,
Well,
maybe.
you're a fourth enterprise fund.
Yeah, my hometown was $18 a year, $1.50 a month on the utility bill.
It was on there just to maintain, like, the houses had swells in front of them,
Mhm.
drain water, and that was to take care of this and that, and it was just added right to your utility bill.
Yeah, user fees different.
for that.
I see, I got you, what you're talking
And, I mean, that might be a quick and easy way to do
about. The
it.
study thing is a pain.
It is, it
Yes.
is. And it doesn't always, in my opinion, it doesn't always achieve the best result.
So why do we have to do it? You're
The
gonna
law
check and
requires
see.
it. The law requires it for impact.
That was the
fees.
caution I got last.
Impact fee, you don't have a choice. Rate study, you don't have a choice. I mean, on a, like a, you know, raise the water rate, we can't just sit around and say, yeah, I think we need to go up a dollar.
Yeah, we would have to, we
I
would
need to
have
defend
to
it.
provide a rate study to defend it, but that's something we can do internally versus paying someone to do a complicated study. Is that something you guys want us to look at?
I think we should,
Yeah.
I definitely think we should look at all of those and the percentage. That's what we're doing now.
Yeah. What's coming up and all that.
Yeah, now's the time to,
Okay.
all right, looking ahead to next Monday, I mean, this budget's sort of like eating a salad, it just, there's not a lot of meat and potatoes in it, it's, what do y'all, I guess we'll just meet again and we'll get some more information
And I will bring you a sheet of all the dedicated fund cash balances and all the employees and where they're split in their salaries.
Oh, that's a good idea.
now,
Yeah, Jerry,
because this type of information spread quickly, it's important, and you mentioned it, I want to mention again, that the millage rate, because of the fire department, on the street, that's not gonna be the easiest sell, or at least that's my opinion. But it is important to know that the fire assessment goes away for everyone. So, and that, what was that rate for residential?
$356.
$356,
And that helps some of my businesses too.
Oh, yeah.
right.
Big difference.
Okay.
Businesses are 50 cents a square foot.
Tanya, is there any, or Adrian, is there any areas in the budget that you still have any, I mean, are you like studying or thinking about, or?
I have some, and that's the state numbers. I don't know where they're gonna come in at. I mean, it's got the potential to be $50,000 to $100,000 different than I'm projecting, is that?
Yeah.
I need those numbers.
Well, when would you expect to get it?
They said end of June to mid-July. That's what the website says on the top. I haven't checked today. But
Get close to the bid.
Yeah.
nothing's out. So that one, and then I'm gonna look at what Sandy talked about with his health insurance. I'm trying to crunch that down. I took a few other notes, but nothing that I'm really heavily digesting.
I don't have anything that I've already commented on.
All right,
We have to speak to Kimberly.
what about anybody else? I mean, we got sort of first look at what we,
This is
I
Jenny.
think we all knew it was a bleak picture, but it doesn't matter, it is what it is.
I think y'all did.
We got more said a lot now, it is what it is.
You know, it's not as bleak as I thought it was gonna be, so.
Well, no, and try and help that. They made a significant difference. It's, to be honest with you, it's next year that if you're fast forwarding, that's where somebody, you better be ready to raise a flag.
Year two and year.
But we've got a whole year for
Construction.
another triumph decision, maybe, I don't know.
Can I just say something on sanitation while we're here? I know while I was out last week, there was a question on putting a dumpster, down on 98. I just want you guys to understand why I made the decision that I did. We're all for anybody who wants a water and sewer account, we're gonna give it to them. We make money. But I talked with Tommy and Thomas, and what we decided to do was to put trash cans there instead of bringing in a dumpster, and here's why. We had a dumpster here at the tennis courts that we were letting people just bring their trash in. Every day it was full of construction debris, 2x4s, drywall, those are the things that damage our sanitation trucks. They poke holes in them, it causes all kinds of problems. So I made the decision that we would just put trash cans down there initially, instead of putting a dumpster right there on the right of way, because I know it's gonna be full of construction debris every day. To put trash cans there with the agreement that the city would check those cans every day and pick them up, and then, going forward, if we see an increase in volume that would warrant a dumpster at that location, then we would revisit that, but that was why I made that decision. I know there's a dumpster down there now, but there was a method to my madness, and, I'm concerned about having that dumpster there on 98.
How many garbage cans? 3, 4?
Yeah, however many we would need, I don't know, last week would have been the busiest week, I think, that they're gonna have, and I don't know how busy he was or how much, I mean, it wasn't like we had a bunch of
But
garbage.
you're right, a dumpster there, everybody's gonna dump.
Yeah, and that's why we moved the dumpster that was at the tennis courts to the police and fire department, because we can keep an eye on it, because it was just,
And they're using that a lot, because that was, both of those were full this morning.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
guys have already, and the guys came to pick them up first.
Yeah,
thing this morning as
and
well.
our residents, when they leave town, they can drop their trash off, it's working out well, we're getting lots of good feedback having those dumpsters there. But we had to move them there because they were full of construction debris, so, I don't know if you guys want us to leave that dumpster there, I would prefer to,
No, I think it makes sense to take the dumpster and do, I mean, it's just going to happen all the time. It's gonna get full of everything.
well, especially right there. I mean,
Yeah,
if they were
it's so
doing it right
convenient.
here,
It's so
yeah,
convenient. And, I don't know what kind of garbage he's gonna generate.
It was just trash on the beach there, you know, from, I guess, his customers, so that's
Oh.
why we felt a few trash cans if we check those daily for him. I mean, we're right at the end of the street, that's what I told the guys, shame on us if we can't check
Plus,
those
it'll be
cans.
cheaper for him.
Yeah, instead of charging the dumpster rate, but,
Right. Now,
I don't see if a customer asks for a dumpster, then I mean, those are valid reasons, but just put a dumpster there. If it proves to be a problem, if we go by there and it's full of construction debris, then say, look, we can't leave it here because it's not being policed properly.
Have we looked at it and see what's in there?
we'll go look, I mean, we just put
But
it
as
out.
far as
there.
this
When did
needs
you
to
guys
back
put
up,
it
I
there?
don't think we'll take it back. They won't
When
leave it
did-
there and it
Wednesday.
proves to be a problem, they're gonna go pick it up and tell them why.
We put it there Tuesday. I'll just say this to your comment, Mayor. When somebody comes in, I just don't give people what they ask for. I give them what I'm supposed to give them. And so I try to, you know, use common sense and good judgment with that. And just because somebody
I
wants
don't
something.
disagree with that. I don't
Somebody
disagree
wants
with
something
that.
doesn't
In this
mean
case,
you
I
should do
did
it.
disagree with that.
Yeah, and we don't agree on this one, but I'll leave it down there if that's what you guys want me to do. And
well, I
check
think
and
it's a
see.
good idea to take it up, but let's just follow up and see.
We'll see
you know.
what it generates.
Yeah. Because you're right. Construction material doesn't need to go in a garbage truck.
He's there during the day though, I mean, it's not like it's wide open.
Do what?
He's there, he works during the day, so they have to come at night.
And that's when they were dumping
That's
it.
when
Like,
they
I
do.
understand, I'm not sure where they gonna get it.
Dump it on my son.
If that's what he wants, that's what he pays for.
Mhm.
You have it, and if it comes to a problem, pick it up.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything else?
We got one more thing. With this last application we got in, have all of y'all looked at it?
Andy?
Yeah. Do we want to think about adding him to our Friday if we can, if you can talk to him? We don't want to think so.
Well,
And I thought it was a pretty good application.
What's Friday?
Friday is isn't our interview?
10, 11, and 1.
does everybody get notified of that?
I got notified late. I mean, it's a long story, but I didn't find out about it till this morning. I'm not for sure I can be here. So,
Well, then I guess we need to find out who can't, if we need to know that. That was the decision that was made, set them up and see who could be here, so.
who made I thought we would talk about this.
No, I said at the last meeting, y'all putting me in charge to call these people, I'll have to pick a date and they said yes, because we don't know, I don't know when they could come. I said, most likely it would be on a Friday, because people that working or something, they try to make that work, so it was.
Yes, I do remember you saying.
Okay, so now that I've done it on Friday, is that an issue?
Not me.
Rex, you good? I'm good. Jerry, you good?
Cancel my iPhone, so I got to be good.
Okay.
Well,
All right, so,
I see what you mean.
all right,
Can't see you.
what else we got? Anything else? All right, see everybody tomorrow at 1 o'clock.